there's only one of me and there's 60,000 acres and 10,000 goats, and so I've got to sort of be able to make that work. So it's minimal labour, minimal money going in, and just maximising your production. I sort of kept hearing, people saying, about how destructive goats were, and yet here we were getting a good environmental result with them. And so I started to really question, I guess, the general consensus that goats were bad on the landscape. The way I like to describe it, I guess, is if someone uses a hammer and smashes a window, is the hammer at fault or the person wielding the hammer? And so as land managers, we wield the goat, and if we don't manage it properly, then it causes damage, but it's our management, not the actual goat. Western New South Wales now has quite a lot of industry infrastructure. We have plenty of fences and we've got meatworks, not situated close, but we can get to them. And so I think we're really well placed to keep growing our industry.
Chris's work with her travels and the work she's done on her own property are really valuable, because I guess the whole issue of total grazing pressure management and goats, it's not just a Western New South Wales issue, it's an issue right across basically from here to Shark Bay in Western Australia, because same issues are right throughout the southern rangelands of Western Australia, Flinders Ranges. Landscapes change a bit, but the industry and the matter of the goat are all pretty similar.
We came into a property that was fairly densely covered in thick woody weed or invasive native scrub, and with quite a limited amount of perennial grass species. So the aim was to try and change the balance and shift it more towards a perennial grass dominant pasture. So to do that, we selected livestock species rather than any other method, and that was goats, because they ate predominantly browse, sort of 70% browse and 30% ground cover, and so we were able to put more pressure on the woody weed and less pressure on the grass. And it wasn't just a matter of putting them in and really hammering it. It was sort of more strategic grazing management. We tried to mob them up into pretty big mobs, and we'd watch them in that one paddock, and they'd start up high, they'd eat up high, and then over time they sort of work their way down, and once they've got their heads on the ground eating, it's time to move them on. So that was basically what we did.
Western CMA, our focus is on ground cover, I suppose, from preventing erosion, that sort of thing. Chris uses a rotational grazing system, and all the paddocks are under control. That is, they've got hinge joint fencing around the outside, so whilst you might get a few outside goats coming in, not many, but the important thing is that she's got control of the goats. She can move them when required. She does that on the basis of the level of utilisation of the best grasses, and by doing so, she's able to spell the country appropriately and make the most of what's there. And in doing so, she maintains excellent ground cover.
Well, there's 17 paddocks on Myrnong. Basically, it's a fairly creative sort of a setup. We work with what we've got, and if we've got a rough season and too many animals, we'll spread them out. There's always some country resting. I try and work on a minimum of a third. In good growing seasons, then we mob up, and paddocks might get a year's rest, or I've rested paddocks for up to 2 years at times. And basically the plan is that at the start of summer, destock everything we can, because summers are pretty notoriously horrible. And then we had a run of good seasons, and combined with that long-term management of the invasive scrub, we ended up with a thick layer of grass, and goats don't particularly like grass, and we started running out of feed for them and had to sort of go, okay, well, we're not really a goat property anymore, we have to look at cattle and sheep, and so that's been interesting. And so that then raises the productivity and the profitability of the property. I was lucky enough to study with Rangelands Australia and rangeland management at a postgraduate level, which was pretty interesting for me, and really learned a lot about how rangelands work. And then went and did a Nuffield scholarship and did a couple of laps around the world, basically looking at rangeland management and the goat industry and how we could really get some better production happening out here. The Australian goat meat is held in really high regard, and compared to other carcasses that I looked at around the world, Australian goat meat is really good. And you know, you've got to bear in mind that we produce this goat meat without even trying, really. It's just harvested feral animals. So by getting the fences built and knowing you could put animals in a paddock and they'd stay there, that just reduced that frustration and then enabled control. About 200 kilometres of TGP fencing, and we did it all ourselves and in a fairly short time frame. Well, my daughter, who's 22, she's sort of got red dirt on the brain, and her and I have done in the past quite a lot here together on our own, and it sort of became a bit of a joke with a few people around here that it was Princess Station. So we, rather than getting upset about it, we embraced it, and so we formed Princess Pastoral Enterprises, and that's the name of what happens here, I guess. And so it's sort of a girls only thing, and we did have bras hanging on the gate, but we took that off. As rangeland managers, there's so much that we have to learn and know. You know, it's a dynamic thing. You know, nothing's stable. You've got different seasons, different markets, different grasses, different land systems within your own property. There's so much to know, and so the more knowledge we have, the better job we can do. And so I guess I have had a focus on trying to improve my knowledge, just because I was interested in, and hell, you know, that's where I make my money, so I should try and know as much as I can about it. And I guess as land managers, I think we have a responsibility to do it well, whatever we do in life. But you know, we're managing a piece of ground, and we should be doing it well. And you know, knowledge is power, I suppose, and the ability to make good decisions.
The bottom line is that she's an example of someone who's running a good enterprise, but in terms of the landscape, she's got a stable landscape, and it's probably having substantial benefits for biodiversity.
And I mean, I owe so much to goats. Like, to me, they're the young farmer finance scheme of the Western Division. I sort of always like to say that they're like the last man standing in a barroom brawl. They didn't necessarily cause all the damage, but they're the ones standing there in amongst it all. And so I think we have to be really careful. If we're going to run goats, we have to be aware that they will eat everything, and before they die. And so we have to really manage constructively and within the contents of what our land can cope with.